What's up, everybody? George T from the Wagon. This week we are going to be building Type 2 window door frames. Our first step in the process of rebuilding the Type 2 window frames, we need to remove this door panel. My bus is held in by Phillips screws. Factory was flathead screws. On this particular application, he's got the compound built hardware holding all this in. So this is actually going to take an Allen screw. So whatever hardware is holding your door together, get that particular tool, and then we're going to just take it apart. This being a later model, he's got the actual grab handle on it, and this is held in by a screw, not a punch pin. If you have an earlier one, you're going to need to knock the punch pin out of the back of that. So let's get to it. I'm using a Dave's Auto Center trick of the solo cup. Since I have 10,000 of these things laying around here, might as well. I'm assuming when I pull this off, we won't be finding a vapor barrier from the condition of the panel. So now every bit of my hardware is in this cup right here. Easy to manage. So as I suspected, there's no vapor barrier here. 10mm 1/4" drive with a 6" extension. There's two 10mm nuts here, studs that are coming through the frames on there that you're going to take off from underneath here. Your outside hardware is going to be a large Phillips if it's factory. Your inside pocket, right here, you have two holes. 13mm hold those in. I always start with our 10mm. Put your tool on off. I find it with my fingers. So I'm holding my two fingers on it. I bring the tool up into it, and that's what allows me to get it without even seeing it. You saw I haven't stuck my head underneath or nothing to look at it. Doing the same thing here, finding it with my hand. These exterior bolts. Phillips right here. And I see shiny threads as it comes out, which is never good. So either it's misaligned or cross-threaded. Does not look misaligned. When you have the window frame out, do yourself a favor, get your tap and die set, and just clean up the threads of everything. We got these two and these two here. They're all 13mm. And once we get those off, then the frames will come out. And the frames pull out from the top. Got those four out, get the bottom out. Boom. See that? Out moved. I'll lower the car down a little bit so I can get those off there. You saw I kind of popped it up. I just continue on with the same thing. Okay. Once you get to the point where these are going to come out, I find they are often in tension, so the arms are going to want to move out. So make sure you have a good grip on these when you pull them out. You don't want to scratch all the paint around it. This is a patinaed car. Regardless of being patinaed or freshly painted, you definitely never want to try and scratch something. So we're coming up on the end there. Boom. I've got my hands on the bottom, so I'm controlling them so they can't go and just scratch the door up. This is an excellent opportunity at this point to come through here with a microfiber and just wash up all these areas of the door. Just get all the muck and junk off of them. Since we're going to be replacing the rubber, you don't want to put on top of dirt because then it just prematurely wears out your rubber and scratches the paint. We'll be digging into every aspect of it. We're going to take these windows apart. We're going to press the new seals in everywhere, potentially even change the glass with ISP West glass. Depending on once we steel wool all this off and see the condition of it, that'll determine whether I'm going to order new glass for these here. This whole area here is coming out. We're going to remove the outer seal, everything. I've also ordered already my new hardware kits from Wolfsburg West for these. So you see these flathead screws here, and then you have a 7mm on this side here. And you get the same combination here. Once you remove those four bolts from this bottom bar, then this bottom bar removes, your windows and everything slide out. To get this vent window apart, you're going to push both those tabs back. There's a 13mm, completely remove this. On the other side of it, we have a rivet right here. You drill out the rivet on the bottom, and we will have to replace that rivet when we put it all back together. We're going to start. The exterior is a flathead, 7mm on a ratchet, to loosen the nuts on the inside. Flatheads, the bane of everyone's existence. All right, these are already fighting me. We've hit it with some coil here. We're gonna let that coil sit for a bit. Get that dude bedded into it so I know I got a good solid bite on it. And I'm gonna be turning on the ratchet, not on the screwdriver. But once you have a screwdriver that fits into that slot well, it does not fight you. Now that bottom bar is free as a bird now. We've got the hardware out, channels back out, runners out, and felt is out. Not the stock clip, siliconed into place. And we'll have to get these windows cleaned up. Front felt is out. There we go. Parts that we will be using for this, we are replacing the vent window sills, 211 837 626. The opposite will be 625. Your odds are always driver's side. We have the vent lip seal, this is where the window goes into it, 211 837 629. These are going to be the same because they can go upside down, doesn't matter. Same with this, this is the separator for this glass right here. 211 845 231, two of those as well. This is going to be our press-in seal. I'll show you how we do that. That's probably going to be the one that nobody ever does. We got felt channels from J-Bugs. The owner brought these. I normally get mine from Wolfsburg West. We'll see how good those are. We got our bottom door seals from Wolfsburg West as well. It goes underneath this channel. We have our plate screws. These hold this part to the outer frame. New from Wolfsburg West. N109800. We also have Wolfsburg West 211-837-455. This is the latch that holds our divider in place. We got new hardware N109701. These are individuals for the doors. We have two of them. These were individuals as well. We got two of those. So this is all the parts and pieces that we're going to be using when we reassemble Eric Flack's windows. You can determine the finish that you want to do to your frames. These have been sanded, primed, edge primed. Some pieces were actually blasted, the one small enough to get in my cabinet. These are a little difficult to get in my cabinet, they don't fit the whole way. So all these smalls here were blasted to bare metal and put into edge prime. Now when I say I put them in edge prime, like we're going off of simple stuff. This is like DIY stuff. I'm using a aerosol edge prime. I'm using an aerosol primer, and this actually got sanded with a 320 when we got done. And I just went and had paint mixed up into a can. So this is the Lotus White, is the color of the double cap. This is Automotive Arts Finish, the same stuff we painted that Gia in. I use CTI Industrial Supply locally in town, and they're the ones who mix up my paints for me. So it's actually real paint that they put into a spray can. And then we are going to finish it with a 2K clear coat. This one's a little more complicated to use because this is a two-part. Once you burst that on the bottom, you take that red cap and burst the bottom, you're mixing the hardener into it. You have a very limited time to get this done. So we're going to crack this dude, we're going to put our clear coat on those. These are going to sit over the weekend. So all this stuff, once I put the clear on it, will sit in this shop to just bake in. It gets nice and hot. We're starting to get into the 90s right now in Vegas. When I get here Monday to assemble these windows and press everything together, I should be able to handle them without the clear coat being soft, especially being a 2K clear. If you just get like your regular Rust-Oleum clear, you will leave fingerprints like crazy in that stuff. So I really recommend search it out, get yourself a two-part clear system if you're going to do that. If you just choose to Rust-Oleum or like you get the paint from Wolfsburg West or anything like that, you can do that. But once again, when you go to handle them, if they haven't dried, they will be very soft. You'll leave fingerprints in everything that you're doing. So I've already shot my base on all these. It's set up now. We're going to go for a round of clear on it. You figure out what you're going to do with your windows. If you just want to clean up your frames with some Dawn dishwashing soap, do that and get them cleaned up and move on. You know, keep the patinaed look on them so everything is cohesive on there. When I did my bus, what I did on this was I did a wrinkle finish on my bumpers. This was done years ago. So I did my frames in all wrinkle finish. So as ratty as my bus looks, my frames are completely rebuilt inside and out. All new latches, all new rubber throughout, and you can see that wrinkle finish on it. This is just like that VHT wrinkle finish in black. I opted for the stainless. We have these coming for Eric Blacks as well. I opted for a chrome since everything else was chrome on my latches. I didn't care that I was a commercial. You do it to your liking. There's our frames, faced and cleared out of rattle can. This may not be the same level as, say, like when you do a show car, because we would actually sprayed out of a gun. The results are pretty dang clean. I think Eric will be very happy with the windows when they're done. We're going to go over how to distinguish the difference on the felts. On the bottom brace that holds the window together, you have a slide track, and this is actually what locks the window. And you can distinguish it by the 4 holes here that hold this track in place. And that track, this lock, indexes into the squares left there. So right now we're looking at these felts to determine which one is going to be this felt. And as you can see here, our square cutouts are on the right side of this piece, meaning that when this piece lays in there, the squares will correlate with the locking plate. So we know that this is our driver's side lower felt. Every other one is universal. You can see this one has the same 45, 45. This is your vertical one that goes there on that channel. This one is going to be the big one that goes around this whole area here. Now the only distinguishing feature on this one is the front has a 45. Well, the front of that has a 45 as well. So that's going to be that junction point there. The rear does not have the 45, and this one is not 45. So we know that that is going to be the bottom of this track here. So this piece will go in that direction there. So you want to make sure you distinguish them, because when you get this kit, left and right are both in there. So now we know we can put this off to the side, because we're not going to be using it right away. Now we've gone through and repainted everything. I know in the first clip I showed you these were painted in Lotus White. His bus actually was a pearl white, but even when I had the pearl white mixed up, it was way too yellow. And when I compare it to his Izzy Safaris that I'm putting in, they had painted those in the silver white. So I've now gone through, I had to scuff and redo all this. So now all the frames have been done in silver white. We opted for the stainless latch plates. These are from Wolfsburg West, the side latch plate set. Now remember, when you order this, it's going to be both of them. And another thing to take note, they do give you the hardware for it, so don't go ordering more. That one being 211837-813A. This is a set. Left and right both come in that. We'll open that and get 4 screws and 1 latch plate out of there. For the slide window lock left is going to be the 211837-821A. Remember, odd is driver's side. So we have our latch plate for that window. We have our center bar. This separates the two. His were pretty rusted, so I got new ones. Unfortunately, they came after I did the paint work, and I am most likely going to do these in a satin black to match the vertical seal that goes there, and they'll just kind of disappear and blend into the window. To lock that in place, 211-837-455 is the division bar retaining clip. This goes into the top and will dig into this felt to here to keep this thing from moving front to back. The bottom is held in by that slide latch plate. This is our vertical seal that goes there. We have our vent window seal around here we're putting in. These are directional. This is left and right. Once again, we go to the odd number vent seal, and it's see the L right there, left. Everything you're seeing here is from Wolfsburg West. We have the new hardware that's going to go on the base of our wing window there, and it's a new spring, it's new Teflon bushings, it's everything we need to assemble it, including the rivet for that right there. We've painted everything, including our little Nike swoosh there, and we have this ready to go in. I have a separate video that you can watch on the assembly of a vent window. So when you see me do this, you're going to see me build this frame, and I'm just going to be sticking a vent window in. You're going to have to watch my separate video to see how I did that. So I think that's all the parts and pieces that are going to be involved in this. But these are my 3 windows. I've already taken them to the sink. I've watched them in quad-aught steel wood, so that's 4 zeros. This is the back window. This is our vent window, and underneath it is our slider, the one that goes in and out. We're going to show the process of assembling all these once we get everything put together over there. Because you're going to be moving it around so much, this will be the first seal I put in, and then I'm going to follow with this one. That way the vent window is just ready to drop in, and then we can start doing the easy stuff like putting the felt channel into the frames and then screwing it all together with the glass in there and making this part actually function and work. This is our vertical vent seal, one right here. It has a shape to it. You see that? It's like curved on one side, and then these flaps here. This is where the vent window is going to rest up against. So as this window pivots shut, this should be our upper channel here. In order to get this channel in here, soap water. I use it on everything. The great thing about soap water is it's not going to hurt your paint at all. It won't affect it one bit. You can slather this thing up with all the soap you want. When you're done with it, once you wash the windows off, all your lubricant goes away with it. So I do a heavy mix. Look how blue that is. This is not Windex. This is Dawn dishwashing soap diluted in water. I do a very heavy concentrate, like 2 big pumps in this small little bottle. I'll spray this channel. Get it really in there. And then I spray the rubber separately. First thing I do is I'm going to lay this back slot into that bottom track there. So I put it in like such. I have this particular one that I really like for this. It gets really thin right there. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put that rubber inside that channel there. Now I'm going to slide that whole thing that I just did down to make sure that it is all the way to the bottom of that frame. I used to cut these things just this size, and I found that if you do it this way, the way I'm showing you right now, it has a lot less air noise. It doesn't have no air noise, unfortunately. I've yet to achieve that, but it does soften it up a bit. Now I've just laid that back groove into the channel the whole way down. So I'm going to take my little thin edge there, and I'm just going to push this in. This is one of the easiest seals to install in a VW, I swear to goodness. If they all install like this, these windows would take no time at all. But unfortunately, like I said, this is our easiest one. You get that bottom in there. Like I get that bottom edge in there. So I've got these 4 fingers kind of like holding it and bracing it down. And I just take that and I'm running it along what is sticking out of the channel it's supposed to be in. And that's it. They also come out very easily. So you have to be careful. I've seen a lot of people knock them out of cars and they don't realize they knocked them out and they eventually lose them. All right, so I've just got that little bit up here to do. Now I need to get that little pointy edge in there, and it may not be enough. So sometimes what I'll do, you see I'm like preloading it. I'm bringing it all the way back there. So it's like getting that edge away from there, and it's close enough to where I can just put that edge in. And once it's in, now I can bring that back up because now it's in that channel. We did that in real time, that whole piece right there. Pretty simple. This one, not so easy. This one takes a little bit of work, but I use the same thing. I use the soap. I'm going to switch over to this one. So on this one, what I'm doing is I use this rounded edge to help press this in there. So on this seal, what you're looking at are these 2 square areas right here. They get pressed in to this channel right here. This channel has a little bit of a lip on it. That little lip on both of those inner pieces is what holds that in place. So we're going to, same principle, we're going to get it in on one side and then push in the other. And I've had excellent luck with this tool right here. I also have another one, but it's metal, And anytime I'm working on anything painted, I stay away from metal products. I always stick with the plastic. If you slip, like you see I'm doing that, if that was steel, I'd be scratching my paint right there. There are 2 items that need to be addressed when you're putting these through. They give you, I don't know how well it's going to show up, but you can see that rectangular indentation in the rubber in there, but it's not cut through. That's for this. So you have to carefully cut that out. On the bottom, they at least do the service of cutting it through. So you can see that right there. That indexes over that right there. Would go on the outside, and that also helps locate it. So usually I'll start the bottom there, but I'll cut this out before I install this because that space is correct. That little rectangular right there that you see in that channel is what you're going to cut out. And when I say cut it out, you're going to put a slit in it nice and straight with a good sharp razor blade. I use one of these. I get these off the Snap-on truck. It's a Blue Point cutter. I get it from Aaron Oldenburg. I'll do one little slit in there that allows that to pass through it. And when you put that slit in it, it'll help once again locate this top area. So then you'll just be pressing it into that channel there. So I've got that indexed through. As you see, my seal is not in. And you can see I've got my slit around that. So now what you're going to see be me installing that outer seal to it. Just as we did the other one, we're going to put one of these edges in to that channel and then press the other one in with that tool right there. Just for an explanation as to what I'm doing. I think once you have it in front of you, you see it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you'll see the technique I use and that should be helpful. We're giving this a spray in. Another thing to take note of, I'm working on a blanket right now. This is a steel table, but my frames are painted. I want them to stay nice and painted. So we're working on a nice soft flannel blanket. So make sure you're getting soap in that channel on both pieces. This can be a little bit difficult because this piece really wants to wobble out. Trying to get the one side, so the side you can't see now is the side I'm getting in there. And then what I'm doing is, I'm gonna kind of help that one in. So that front has started already. I know that because it's staying down on its own. And this, you can actually hear it click once you get into place. Like it makes a clicking noise. That's something to take note of there. Get this camera over here so you can really see what I'm doing here. You can see it's lifted right there. I'm gonna lay it down. I gotta really make sure what I'm putting it down on. It's not gonna scratch it. So I'm holding the other end in with my hand. It's already being pressed in there. And I'm going into this area. There you go. Now that is really sucking. You see how that's already coming up on the top? This is where you take tools like this, and once you get that lip over it, you suck it up on the other side, and that's going to help this thing seat in place as well. So this section is actually installed right now. We're going to keep working around it. I just wanted you to see what my method was there. I'm doing this on this inside, and this is pressing my outer lip into it. Be generous with your soap. That's your lubricant. That's what's going to make things go in a lot easier. It does take some force. Be aware of that. Get that little lip out right there. Because we really want to make sure once you get that lip out, then it can travel further in there, because that is a hindrance when it's inside that pocket. So by getting it out of the pocket there, you can really press this rubber seal in on these vent windows. And if you're having trouble with it, so like right now, I feel like it's almost not getting it. So all I do, I can carefully flip over the frame. Once again, be very mindful of the other edges of what it's hitting. I'm going to pull this lip out because that's most likely what's stopping it as well. So there's a lip on both sides that's going to have to come around. And we get this sucker in there and really give it a push. And if that's not working well enough, I can actually go from the inside and go down that way. And I can see that that is in, but once I get around here, it's not. Look at that. Just digging that sucker in. It's a satisfying seal to put in because when it is in, you can tell. I see people's buses that are built all the time, or even their bugs, and you can tell the seat's not bedded because of the way it's sitting on it, and they've cut the ends off it because it didn't fit the pocket. Yikes. I'm going to continue that method all the way around. So there's our seal. It's all in. See, our lip is on this side, and that's very important. But we have both seals in for the vent window right now. I have my latch plate is clearanced around, and we have our pivot is clearanced around. Like that area right there, looks like I need to do a little bit more work. So I'm gonna mess with that a little bit. That should be a nice straight line. So that's an indicator right there that something isn't correct in it. So watch your reveal and make sure it looks good. Speaking of looking good, so you see how filthy my frame is here. Like it's just nasty and dirty. Every time I'm working, I got a microfiber cloth. This is just soap on here. So the great thing is I wipe it with that microfiber, everything comes off of it, and it looks like the brand new painted frame that I spent all the time to do. All that muck comes off of it. And like I said, the soap is my lubricant. And worst case scenario, if I were to dunk these into a sink to try and get everything off it, all it's going to do is wash the soap out of this pocket and make that hold in a little tighter, because now it's not a lubricant, it's actually cleaned it off. You know, two super clean surfaces with nothing in between stick to each other really well. So that's why I prefer soap over slick spray, silicone, anything like that. First off, we paint in here sometimes, so you don't want to spray silicone too often. When I do it, it's sparingly. Most of the time for assembly, it's soap water. Because this won't damage the paint, because I can just rinse it off with water, and all it's doing is cleaning everything as I'm taking it off. So we've got our flap seal. This is where the window pivots up against. We left this thing, it's full size. So it's preloaded in both corners. Has a nice big open reveal, so that window has something to sit up against. There's all these little shapes in here. This is why you get that crazy noise when you're driving down the street, because these don't press up against everything perfectly like they should. And that's something that I'm working on, because it's a complaint I get from people when they're on the freeway that their windows scream at them, and hey, my windows scream at me too. Every time I do it, I try to really work on getting less and less air noise out of them. Like I'll pick these things out so they're not quite as smashed inside there, so that the vent window has something to go up against. Next, we're going to work on the felt channels. These felt channels were purchased at J-Bugs, not at Wilsburg West. So I got to cut these to size. To cut them to size, I'm going to use my big hose cutter. It's a blue point tool. But I want to make sure they get this cut in the right spot. One of the first things I'm going to do is put the felt in this lower channel. That would be this piece here that we're going to lay in here, get it sized up. I'm going to install this tab strip onto it, and we're going to actually put it in the door. Then we're going to make a mark inside here as to where we want to cut both of our internal pieces that go there. That looks like I don't have to cut that piece. It looks to be about the right size. I'll let you know once I get it in. So I've lined up the opening, because this is pre-cut into this. So I've lined that up with it, and everything still lines up when I go to put this in place. So we still get those pockets in line with our latch plate. So to put the latch plate in, what I'm doing is because I'm not going to glue this in. I don't think the bottom one needs to be glued in. Gravity and God hold it in place. The windows rest on it. It doesn't need to be glued in. We're going to put that in. Now that piece is cut up on the inside, the felt channel. So I'm taking a hook. I'm getting in between my painted base and that, and you saw that just drop right in. Then it gets to the next one. So I'm just keeping a little bit of light pressure on it while I move that out of the way with the 90-degree pick. And I work it all the way down. Until that piece is nice and flush. So by lining up that square, this edge looks to be about correct. I'll see when I go to dry fit it into the door, and I may have to do a little bit of trimming on this. That's fine, it's a straight cut. Now we can see that we are not lined up with our holes here. So I'm putting the hook on my strike plate now. I'm pulling it back a little bit, boom. And there's my first hole lined up. This comes with the hardware. So we're gonna put that hardware in place. It's got it started by hand, and all four of them do line up right now. We're going to go ahead and put all these in before we actually install this bottom piece on. And I'll be able to see also at that point what needs to be adjusted on this felt. Now remember, we're going to dry fit it first, because I have to mark my frame for cutting. When we put the top piece and the front vertical piece in is the way I'm doing it. No glue on this felt. Get my latch plate in, my slide plate in. And remember, there's a big and a small side. Big side to the back, small side to the front. Flathead screws. The bane of our existence on VW is 1 millimeter in thickness and a 5.5 millimeter in width, and that is like the perfect match for this screw. It's not to say that it won't slip, but if you do get the right size, it's less likely to slip. This is a tough screw to put in because we're going into stainless. It's not as forgiving. See if I can get one more rotation out of that. Already don't like that. I'm going to back it up a little bit so I can see that that one's not tight enough. So we're going to go back to that one, try and get her tighter. Well, that's a weird reaction. And that's another thing I was talking about. You see how that rubber's pulled away now? And it's because that's going into the rubber and it pulls it down. You would think that they would clearance it for the hole as well. That is not going in. So let's see if we can get that to force in a little more. Nope. I'm going to pull that screw out. No, I'm not. You son of a biscuit. So apparently it's stripped now. That's super annoying. Look how far that is. It's not like I over tightened it. It wasn't even bedded down. So we're going to go and put these other ones in and we'll come back to that. Calling that good where that one's at. When I do it, I like to have them all facing the same direction so they will all be horizontal when I get finished with this. Man, that freaking gap is killing it, and you can feel that it's getting super tight. I'm going to back it out and go back in a little bit, see if we can make some threads in it. I don't even know if it is now at this point or not. And that just feels like that thing is spinning. I had that problem on my bus with these stainless strips. I almost think the holes need to be opened up more, and I should have done that on this. Now I'll have to deal with this problem. I mean, that thing is not even coming close to grabbing threads now. And look how far out it is. And these are the screws provided for this trim. I wonder if they've ever tried to screw it in. I'm sure they'd tell me like, oh, no one's ever had that problem before. Like I've heard them say to me when I complain about a product to them. Like I got some special bad batch because I had problems. I took that back out. And one thing that I've done is I backed this like that, so it's support on both sides, and I ran a 2.5 millimeter drill bit through the felt, so my screw will now screw into the felt instead of just pushing it like it was doing here. And when I go to put the window in there, I want to make sure that it has the room to come over. So I'm also going to see about drilling these out one more step up so they actually accept the hardware that they provided, because right now all it's done is ruin the 4 screws I've tried to put in there. None of them tightened up all the way. I've set my strip up on here. First thing I did was I did a test run. I made sure if I drilled a hole that there's still actual thread into it, and it does. And it's barely a step up on this stainless, because stainless is usually very hard to drill, and that seems to be going right through. So it's just a very minor cleanup that we're doing on it. And doing it onto a piece of wood just ensures me that I'm not going to mess this cut up. We're not going to bend the strip. Boom. So we've got the 4 of these. I'm going to resize it in there. I'm hoping with now my felt channel poked, when this goes through, that it pulls everything, including that felt, tight into it. Let's give this another try and see how it does. Once again, be careful where you're laying this. I've already taken a broom and swept off all my metal shavings there. So now I'm backing it with my finger as I go to draw this one in. And it's still equally as hard, which is odd. Why is that? Another trick I did when I was trying this. This is about the thickness of a window, and I'm putting that in there, and that way the stainless part doesn't move too far away. It's moving further away than I'd like to right now, because that is not sucking up. All right, we're finally starting to suck it in. Not 100% though. And I can see that it didn't catch. I'm gonna push that back up against it to make sure. So what I've done now is I put a screwdriver in there and made sure that the felt was up against it that way. Once again, it gets to a point and it won't suck up that last little bit. Why is that? I find that to be very frustrating. I'm going to try it with the old hardware on this one and see if it does any better, since we did open that hole up just a little bit. Alright, seems to be sucking in, and then it stops sucking in. Alright, so here's how I got it to go in. 3/16 plate wedged in there. I've got my tucking tool in there, and it put enough pressure to where I could get that thing to snug up. Luckily, I didn't scratch my trim up any as I did that. But yeah, that's what it took to get that dude in place. Drilled out, had to brace it with something the thickness of the window and then some to hold that latch plate in place. But it is in place now. All my screws are set at a horizontal. If you look down, I don't know how well the camera's gonna pick that up, but they're all a little skewed. So we're gonna get this bolted into the window frame so we can mark our other felts to get them installed. So we've set the bottom bracket in place, and I can see through, there's holes Let me show it to you. There's holes on the side, same way that we took them apart, and there'll be nuts on the inside of these channels. For the first one, I'm not going to put the washers in because I don't want to compress them. They'll be fresh to go. Little pro tip I do. I put one nut inside there. And the reason for that is, when I go to put the other one on, I'll have them stacked in the nut driver and it will sit flush with it. That's because there's two of them in there now. So for just starting it, I put my finger on the outside, put that on there, and start spinning. There it goes. She started on there. Put the bolt through. So this track actually has slotted holes in it. One thing I want to make note of, we're going to put those slots all the way up. The reason for that is we want the window to fit in there tight, and if we measure it at its smallest and still give it, say, a 1/16 of additional felt this way, when we have to adjust it, we can. And move over to this side. This one's fighting a little bit as far as going all the way up. I'm going to put it all the way up and just give it a tighten. You notice the felt channel is already in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trace where the felt channel exists, and then I'm going to trace the bottom of it. So I would say that is my felt, and that's going to be my track mark there. We're going to do the same thing on this side. The only difference that I will do here is, you see how that's cut at a 45? I just need to know the bottom. So we're putting this sucker in there deep, going across. And like I said, we're going to give it a little bit extra in that direction. I've transferred my Sharpie mark from the inside to the exterior. This will come off with a little rubbing alcohol, so I'm not worried about that. I have my inside line here, but the first piece I'm going to size up is this one. My 45 will start in that corner, and I'll bring it down. I'll have that as my indicator line. And like I said, we're going to give it about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch, just a touch longer, so it has a little bit of compression on that rubber. Now I'm taking my white grease marker and I put a line going across it. So that's where I know I'm going to put the base of it. And then I got to cut up a little bit from my two channels on the side to index into the ones that already exist in the bottom track. We're going to cut that straight across. And then I just got to take two of these ears off there, leaving the felt on the back side of it. I'm going to try this for my straight across cut. My mark there does not look very far from it. I'm just going to cut on the inside of it. That one looks almost right on the money. See how it all fits when we put it together. We got the vertical channel. We got a 45 on this side, 45 on that side, and obviously that's just silly because it's a good 2 inches too long. So we're going to put that guy in there. I'm going to scoot it up to make sure that I'm tight to that top. I'm going to transfer my line to the outside. The one that I made on the inside earlier, right about there. This cut's going to be a little trickier because we have to put that 45 in it for it to be correct. Right now I'm going to take my white grease marker, grease pencil, and put my lines going across that. Now I'm going to make that cut there with this that we used last time. And I'm giving myself like a 1/16 on it for compression. And now I have to mimic this 45 that's on it, because now we just cut it straight to fit into that space, but I've got to get it the same. I'm going to put it over it and give it a little tracing so we get it the angle somewhat correct. I like to be as correct as possible on it. Now I'm just going to eyeball it to the angle I've already got cut in there. Normally I wouldn't do a dry fit, but we're going to do a dry fit first, just to make sure I don't have any issues with anything. And after that, then we're going to come back and all these pieces will actually get glued in. And to glue it in, we use 3M black weather strip adhesive. Now I'm going to put all these pieces back in. I like the way that looks there in the back. I'm happy with the way that looks there. Got a little bit of compression going on there. I'll check and see if something needs clearancing right there. That might just need a hair taken off of this upper, this one here. And you can see how it's pulling that back. And as far as our front over here goes, looks like a really nice fit. To do the dry fit, we're going to put glass in there so we have the proper depth. So I have some alcohol in the sprayer I put on there, and the little mark I made, as you see, it just wipes right off. It's just isopropyl alcohol will remove ink. We got our black super weather strip adhesive. It may look like a lot, but it's going on paper thin. So I kind of squeeze it in the middle and push it down. There's a window that's permanently attached in the rear, so I didn't glue the whole way down. I'm just gluing it here, so if something happens to the front one, it won't let it just drop down. This I'm going all the way up, because this is a vertical one, and they both leave it at some point. I'm going to tuck that front edge in first, do the same pinch method to get it into the frame. I'm just putting my finger inside each individual one and making sure that thing gets pressed all the way down. On the top and the bottom one. Once again, the rear has a stationary window, so I'm not going to glue that one down. We're going to be putting in the division bar, the seal. These are left and right. They're not side specific like some of the other seals that we've been doing. These come galvanized. I painted that in a satin black, so it kind of mimics to look like a piece of rubber. And it's pretty simple the way it goes on. So this is the shape of it. And you want this in between the two pieces of glass. Right there. But it just drops into that. I don't know how well you can see that. And just fits in there, and we're going to fit this to the glass. Just going to show you real quick that I'm going to trim that, make it level with the metal. Okay, I put my cut in it. I'm going to pull it out and just make it match. Just like that. So we cut about 1/4 of an inch off of that dude. This is the way that I put that on. Okay, those go inside. That indexes over, see, both sides have like a little tab on them. That indexes over it. This is going to press into the felt, and that's what holds this. This is going to go into the slide latch plate and lock into place that way. This is going to be the inside window, so I know that flap needs to go in between the outside and inside window. I'm putting it in from the bottom and I'm sliding it in to make sure that the seal stays on both sides of the window as it should. Basically line it up at the bottom, and we'll have a little bit of tweaking to do to it once we actually get it in there. As we look at a picture of the original door, you can see they don't even show that specific part. They don't show that up there like it should be. Odd. That's the way that's going to fit in there. We've got this piece, and remember this is our inside piece of glass. Our flap is on the inside there, and that clip is holding it into the felt channel there. So this is flathead. The same flathead we use on those screws is the one we're going to use on this. And that's the difference. Like, that's actually holding itself on there because I have the proper flat blade thickness, 1 millimeter in that. There I got my hardware in the same line, same vertical line as that slot, and that's to allow any drainage to continue on. We've got it left on both sides. This bottom piece is held in by our slide latch, and the top is held in by that clip. I don't know whether you can see it, but it goes into the felt. Those points go into the felt. Our rubber is in between the two pieces of glass. Next thing we do is put that little latch on right there. This latch is directional. So the part number for your driver's door will be 211-837-821-AWW. This will bolt in through that window in the holes provided, and this is going to be what locks your window. It's these individual squares right there. You need to be careful when you take this apart. There's a spring in between these two pieces that allows that to spring back the way it does. And make sure you get that back in place. Try not to separate if at all possible. This is put on with a flat blade screwdriver. There'll be a rubber piece on both sides of it. Now we have this installed. You can see there that that goes into that latch right there. It's a little sticky. I may have that a little too tight, but I don't want to loosen it because then this will always be a problem coming loose. We're going to put that here. The next thing you do is our whole outer seal that goes on the outside there. Part number 211-837-835A. This does left and right. This is not directional. You can see there it's just like a T-molding. We went through and cleaned these doors very well. Hopefully we can actually slide it through and around. This is where soap water comes in pretty darn handy. I'm going to show you an example of what I'm doing. This just goes into that channel right there. I don't have any lubricator right now, but I'm showing you what I'm doing. So it's going to slide in like such. We're going to pull it all the way around the window. That should be good. We're going to use our soap water for this. So this is what I'm talking about. I want it to sit upright like that. So we'll pull a little bit in here and make sure this is sitting upright. That's how it seals. It lays up against the body. And we want to make sure this is doing the same thing. So you see we got a little bit of laying out there. Bring it up here. So this seal should be really nice and relaxed at this point, not under tension in either direction. The last thing we have to do is put that wing window in. This is a vent wing hardware kit, 211-837-685. This comes with everything to install your vent window into the frame. This is going to be the first piece we're putting in. You see how that it has that square shape in the middle? As does this shaft here on the vent window. So that index is over that. This is going to be the first washer that goes on once it actually goes through that hole. The proper order for the washers in the kit from Mossberg West will be the actual index keyed washer, a friction washer, a secondary friction washer on this side, and the secondary keyed washer here. So it allows everything to pivot on those Teflon points right there. Next would be your spring, the tab, the lock tab, and then the nut. So with those tightened up, you're pivoting on that Teflon only. It makes for a smooth operation. Now you tighten this up until you think the wind cannot affect the movement of this, meaning if you had it aimed out to get wind on you, that the wind's just not going to blow it shut. So I go pretty snug with those dudes. There are two pieces to that pivot rivet. You have a fiber washer that goes in between both frames, the outer and the actual wing window. This is the fiber washer that allows it to pivot. Then we have the rivet that's going to go and get pressed in on it. So first thing I'm going to do is get that rivet into the hole, and it's just barely in the hole right there. Have a little bit of it stick out so we can attempt to get this rivet in place. And it's there. Sorry my thumb's in the way, so I'm going to lift up and keep outward pressure on that. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. So I got to make sure it gets off of that. There we go. We got on the other side of that rubber. So I'm going to put it in the hole. And I can see now that this whole thing needs to come forward a little bit there. Like that when we go to press it in. So, since we don't have tension here, I'm going to loosen that up a little bit to bring it up to that rivet. That's about where we're going to want it. You guys have seen me use this tool in the past. This is the Nip-X pliers. I don't have a rivet press. I have found this to be the absolute best substitute for it. So I'm pulling down on it, and I'm pushing up on my frame from the bottom. And we're gonna start the squeeze. Actually, I'm gonna get my bigger ones. Gotta make them a little bit smaller. That's a pretty good smash on that. Vent window installed. That completes our frames, but now we need to install them into the vehicle. Back to Wolfsburg West. We have a screw set for window door per door. So I have one of these for each window frame that's going to be put back onto the doors, along with the base gasket that goes on it. I had Ocean go through and wipe off the tops of the doors, and then we have this seal here which goes on top of it. That hardware kit, I've laid it out so we can take a look at it. We have the countersunks. Those are going to be your end caps on the doors. The two 10mm, they're the ones that do the two studs that are on the base of this right here. You have 4 M8 by 125 regular hex bolts, and these are going to go in your 2 verticals. One here, and the other ones are accessed from the inside of the doors along there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put that rubber on there, then we're going to drop the frame into it. This seal is about as simple as it gets right here. You have that little V-notch right there that goes on to the split in the door there. You just press it over that, and the other part just lies down. You can verify your placement by the holes. They're already pre-cut for everything that's going to go through it, and if you're not lined up, you're going to have a lot of difficulty trying to get these panels in. Take this and put it to the outside, because all that's going to get cut off once we actually get the door frames in there. Same thing applies to the back here. We'll cut that with a fresh razor blade as soon as we get the door frames in there. And 2 other things that need to get cut. We're going to cut the ends of these off real quick. I get myself a fresh razor blade, and I'm going to bring this thing in, and I want to go flat about 1/8 of an inch past that. Take the excess off. If you want, you can peen that down. I have a dentless hammer I'm going to hit that with to make sure it can't move. And the other thing I've done at this point is I made sure that all of my seals are sitting upright. You don't want them stretched out. So I'll take a little bit of this and bring it up to there. Just like that. We know we're good to go. Now we can cut this side. Perfect. When you get this piece of rubber on, you verified it's located where you want it to be. Take some soap water and spray by each one of these connection points so the window frame can go past it, and then give it just a general spray all the way down. You got to make sure that the frame is not pinching on the rubber. And you're going to have to tweak these in by hand like that. Once again, make sure you're not pulling the rubber with. There we go. Once you get it past this freaking sticking point in the beginning, the rest of it's fairly simple. Verifying my seal is in before I get crazy and finish the install of it. Make sure you're on that lip on the outside. Give her another couple squirts just to assist in those posts making it past that. We got our seals on the outside and our seal on the inside. Bring it around, take a look at that. So we have this on the outs or on the inside going across. That split comes in the rubber. That's another line-up point there. We have our seal on the exterior all along here. Same thing we do with this. We're going to take a brand new razor blade and cut those the way we want them cut. So I've cut the ends the same way that I did the other one with a fresh razor blade. So it's one chop all the way through. And what I do is I try to follow the body line across there just so it looks the cleanest. You can see I end flush with that there and try and get flush to the body on that side. We've got our Phillips on the ends, our M8 hex nuts on our verticals, inside and on there. Our 10 millimeters under here are already tightened up. So we're going to put the door panel back on, but that there is job done. That is rebuilding your VW bus window frames.